Hello everyone, this is Genius Yoshi, and today we're going to be building and playing a Lorcana deck centered around Belle, the Beautiful, and the Beast. So, let's go over the deck building process together. We're going to be building this deck in Steel and Sapphire colors, and we're going to find our namesake card to begin with. Belle, strange but special. So, Belle is a 2/4 quest for 1, and you get to double ink during your turn. So you can ink an additional card. And if you've reached 10 cards in your ink pool, then suddenly Belle can quest for 5. So if we're going to make a Belle deck, she's already pretty decent as a 4-drop, but we're going to want to be able to ramp up to try and get to the 10 ink in our ink pool. So let's start by including 4 Belles into our deck. We're also going to be including 4 Beasts into our deck, mostly for the namesake, but also Beast is just a very good card that you can ink and a card that is item removal. And Beast is a 5-drop that can sing, which is relevant for some of the future cards that we'll be putting in play. So with Belle, if we're going to be putting a bunch of cards in our ink pool and still have cards to play, it means we need to draw a lot of cards and ramp a lot. And to draw a lot of cards, there's nothing better than A Whole New World, which is a very powerful card, but it's not inkable in 5-drops, so we're going to be playing 3 copies of it. So that's our main synergy, our central piece, Belle, A Whole New World. And now we need ramp in order to reach that 10 ink for Belle. So what are the best ramp cards? Well, there's Mickey Mouse Detective, which is the 1/3 that gives you the top card of your deck into your ink pool. Fantastic cards. Rated as the top Sapphire card according to my set review. Go and watch it if you haven't watched it yet. And, well, after this video, because this video is going to be awesome too. Alright, so Mickey Mouse. Then there's also Gramma Tala, which is another fantastic ramp card. Also fills our 2-drop spot perfectly. Whenever she is banished, you may put it in the inkwell. So she becomes ink when she is banished, which is awesome. So now we have some ink. So what do we do with that ink? Well, let's put the strongest payoffs for this deck. And the strongest payoffs are definitely Tinkerbell. We want 4 of Tinkerbell in almost any steel deck. And she's just a 6-drop. We'll be able to drop her. Early game, we can always ink her. I love Tinkerbell. She's awesome. I'll also want to play some copies of Hades, because Hades is an extremely strong payoff. We're playing ramp already, so we're going to be playing 3 copies of Hades because Easy's an uninkable 7-drop, and I don't really want to go higher than 3 copies. And again, 3 is because we have that partial mulligan, so I'll mulligan any Hades in my opening hand. Alright, so now we have ramp, we have payoff. It's starting to be a relatively standard ramp type deck with A Whole New World and Belle at the centerpiece. Beast fills in the 5-drop of inkable. Now we do want a bit more inkable 5-drops. Let It Go is an awesome single target removal spell. We'll want to be playing it. So now we have 3 Hades and 4 Let It Go as our point single target removal, which is pretty good. So we're well set for single targets. Now when it comes to AoE removal, for those pesky aggressive decks, there is no better card than Grab Your Sword, which deals 2 damage to each opposing characters. 5 ink, non-inkable, but this is going to be our answer to aggro deck, at least one of them. We'll be playing 3 copies of it, again because it's not inkable and I don't want to be stuck with too many copies in my hand. Next, well, what is next? Let's take a look at what we have so far. Show deck. So we have Gramma Tala, Mickey Mouse, Belle, filling in our early curve. And then we have a bunch of 5-drops, 6-drops, and 7-drop. We need a bit more stuff to do in the early game. Just waiting until turn 4 isn't going to cut it. So what else can we add? Well, there's Captain Hook, Forceful Duelist, which I've come to like more and more as I've been playing with this card. It holds off aggressive decks fairly well with its 2 toughness, trades very well with Lilo or the 1-drop Maleficent. If you're playing something a little stronger, I mean, it can even trade off against the 2-drop Simba, which is awesome. I love Captain Hook as a 1-drop, one of the best 1-drops in the game. There's also Develop Your Brain, which is going to get inked most of the time, but it's a good game. It's a good card to hit early game in order to find our answers and line up our plays. And if you hit it late game, well, you can dig for a threat. Very solid. Another 1-drop type of answer here. So now we have some of our 1-drop slot filled. And let's take a look at our 3-4 slot. There's Hans, 13th in line. Very strong card. Very strong for control. So we're going to be playing a full play set of Hans in the 4 slot. And then we can look into the 3 slot. But there's nothing overly impressive outside of Mickey Mouse. And what I was initially playing was filling in the 1-4 with Fire the Cannons and with Captain Hook and that package. It worked out pretty well. I was at about 80 to 90% win rate with that deck, but it did run into some issues with being stuck with cards that are non-inkable. So we were hitting a bit too many Fire the Cannons, Captain Hook. I mean, let's look at our uninkables right now. We have Mickey Mouse, we have 3 A Whole New World, we have 3 Hades, and we have 3 Grab Your Sword. So we're already this is a pretty solid lineup of uninkable cards. But if we start adding 7 more with the Fire the Cannons and Captain Hook, then we start to be a little high on the uninkable. So let's look at adding a bit of inkable cards in the early drops. As much as it hurts me to say, I'm going to add a pair of Flounders into the deck to make sure that we hit either a 1-drop or 2-drop. And similarly, I'm going to be adding a pair of Prince Erics. I don't really want to be playing those, but I need to make sure that I have an answer for those aggro decks. Also, another thing that I've noticed playing the deck is that a lot of times I reach that mid to late game and I want cards to ink, and that Fire the Cannon and Captain Hook were kind of stuck a little bit. So since we want to reach that 10 ink, having surplus inkable cards in the late game isn't that much of a problem. Also, since we have relatively high costed cards, we don't typically run out of steam, or we'll find a whole new world before that happens. So I'm okay with adding a couple of cards to fill in our curve. So now, our curve looks pretty decent. So we have the 4 Captain Hooks, which we really want to play on 1, and then some fillers. The Gramma Tala, which we really want to play on 2, with a bit of filler. Mickey Mouse on turn 3, which is what we want. Then we have Belle, Hans, and then it's the top end of our curve. So we have 8 cards that fill in our 1 to 4 line pretty well. So it's time to fill in our ink. So we're going to be adding in, I almost forgot, another important 3-drop, Smash. And this one is inkable removal. So we're going to be adding a full play set of Smash. And that actually fills in, we have at least 6 1-drop options with Hooks and Flounder, 6 2-drops with a Gramma Tala and Prince Eric, 8 3-drops with Mickey Mouse's and the Smash. Then we have the 8 4-drops with Belle and Hans, and we want to fill in whatever is left with playable 4 to 6 ink cards. Well, we already have 8 4-inkable cards with Hans and Belle. So we're going to be looking at our 5-drops. I like Jasmine, Queen of Agrabah, Situational Healing, 5-drop with decent stat, Quest for 2. And I also like playing Tekka as a 5/5, can kind of combat, force through. And I think that this completes our deck with 3 copies of Tekka and 4 copies of Jasmine. And that brings our deck to completion with 4 Captain Hook, 4 Develop Your Brain, 2 Flounders, 4 Gramma Tala, 2 Prince Erics, 4 Mickey Mouse Detective, 4 Smash, 4 Bells, 4 Hans, 3 Part of Your World, A Whole New World, sorry, wrong song. 4 copies of the Beast, so we have Beauty and the Beast. Also, it definitely makes the lineup of inkable 5-drops. 3 copies of Grab Your Sword, 4 copies of Jasmine, Queen of Agrabah, 4 copies of Let It Go, 3 copies of Tekka, 4 copies of Tinkerbell, and 3 copies of Hades to round up the list. And that's it. Beauty and the Beast control at its finest. It can probably be refined a bit further with more playtesting, but why don't we go to that playtesting right now? I'll show you the deck in action with some games using Pixelborn. Let's get the first game on the road. Let's see what we have here. We have Belle, Jasmine, Gramma Tala, second Belle, Grab Your Sword, Tinkerbell, Let It Go. Definitely want to send back Grab Your Sword because it's not inkable. I want to keep the Gramma Tala. I want to keep a Belle, and I think I will send the rest back, just in the hopes of finding a 1-drop. So I'll keep the Gramma Tala, and I'll keep 1 copy of Belle, and I'll mulligan the rest. We do hit a Captain Hook, pair of Hans, Mickey Mouse, and Flounder. Alright, our opponent inks and plays a Lilo. So what do we do to answer that? Well, we'll play our Captain Hook since it is our best 1-drop. We do have Gramma Tala on turn 2, so we won't be playing that Flounder. We'll ink the Flounder, play the Hook, pass the turn. Now it's our opponent's turn. Opponent inks the Cheshire Cat, so the opponent is playing Amber Emerald aggro, and pretty much as aggro as possible. Opponent is going to be playing LeFou, and our opponent was greedy and quested with the Lilo, so we're going to take the opportunity to take out Lilo using our Captain Hook. And this is what I like about this card. It's still alive, and well, it's going to force LeFou to actually challenge it, which is fine. Looking back at our hand, we have too many 4-drops. We're going to be sending a Hans into the ink and playing Gramma Tala. And now, if the opponent quests with LeFou, then Captain Hook can challenge it and get the 2-for-1. Or if LeFou challenges Hook, then Gramma Tala can finish off the trade, and the opponent hasn't gotten any lore in the exchange. We do lose the 2 cards, but we gain Gramma Tala as ink, which is where we want her anyways. Opponent is deciding to sing a song. Singing Be Our Guest. Looking up the top 4 cards of their library and putting a Simba into their hand. This little visual bug, our opponent does have 3 ink remaining, so Simba is going to hit the battlefield. But Simba is unexerted, which means that we can go and challenge LeFou. It is not protected. Looking at our hand, we do have a pair of Mickey Mouse. Do we want to skip the Hans and go straight for Beast into Tekka? I think Hans is actually more useful than Belle in this matchup. So we're going to ink Belle, play Mickey, ink the top card of our deck, and we'll let Captain Hook challenge LeFou. And Gramma Tala will quest. I don't see really any reason not to. Bringing us to 1 lore. Pass the turn to our opponent. Gramma Tala. Storyteller. Whenever she's banished, she goes into her inkwell. Opponent is inking Flynn Rider, one of the best aggressive threats of the format, and decides to play Tinkerbell. Tinkerbell is a 2/3 evasive. Alright. Simba is exerted, protecting Tinkerbell. We do have the option of running our Smash to remove that Tinkerbell, which is tempting. I think we want to quest with both of our characters. We are at 4 ink. We can reach 5. Hans is quite interesting here. Do I want Hans or do I want the Beast? That's the question. Do I want to keep the Smash? I think I want to keep the Smash for the Tinkerbell, because she can be quite a nuisance. I want to play 5 on this turn and 6 on next turn. So I'm going to ink the Hans, and I'm going to play the Beast. And simply quest both my characters, since they're under no pressure whatsoever. Although Simba can always challenge them, but that's okay. We'll just put the big body on board so we can take out Simba if we need to. Beast being one of the 2 namesake cards of the deck, but now it's really only being played as a 4/4. Opponent inks Stitch Rockstar and plays Cusco. Cusco, the 2/4 ward, quests for 3, and if it's banished by combat, he banishes the attacking character. It's a very strong lore gathering card. The opponent quested with Tinkerbell. We can probably just try to outquest our opponent. So now we either ink the Smash and run out the Tekka, or ink the Tekka and run out Mickey and Smash, which I think is my favorite option, because it ensures that we get to play Hades next turn. As much as I like playing the Tekka, I need a Mickey. The other option would be to run out Gramma Tala. Actually, there's nothing I can really smash into. So let's take out Tinkerbell. That 2 quest a turn is a menace. And we're just going to quest. Smashing our way through victory. Just 3 damage to that character, taking them down to the banished land, the graveyard. Opponent plays Hans. Hans, a 3/3 quests for 3. Nothing too special there. Opponent quests with Cusco and with Simba. Now here we run out the Hades. And I think we can wipe our opponent's board. And it's quite tempting to do so. So we can challenge a Simba with Gramma Tala and both Mickeys. Run out Hades, sending Hans into the ink pool, and then trade Beast with Cusco. I think that that's the play here. Gramma Tala goes to ink, bringing us to 8 ink. The Mickeys do a bit of combat. Detective with arms. The Beast is going to trade. A bit of an unfavorable trade. And then we'll play Hades and banish that Hans into our opponent's ink pool. Then we pass the turn back. Our opponent has 2 cards in hand, facing down a Hades and a pair of annoying Detective Mickeys that are just going to be gaining some lore. Opponent puts up a Cheshire Cat and a Stitch. We will play a Belle, and we will ink Captain Hook with the threat of questing for 5 next turn with Belle. But just as the board stands, we outquest our opponent. And our opponent is the aggressive deck. We actually, if we draw an inkable card, we quest for lethal next turn. 5 with Belle, 2 with Hades, and 1 with each Mickey. Opponent has the evasive Tinkerbell. Stitch probably wants to challenge one of the Mickeys just to make sure that they don't lose next turn. which is a fine choice. We draw Jasmine, Queen of Agrabah. Inking her is quite tempting, but also just playing her to heal the Mickey, taking out Stitch. No, I think the threat. Treasure's just bigger. Cheshire Cat can't deal combat. Mickey can easily take down that Stitch. And suddenly I can quest for 5, quest for 2, and I have 2 lethal threats on the board, with our opponent nowhere near being able to take those out. Opponent decides to run the Cheshire Cat into Belle, which really does nothing. And that's the handshake. Our opponent resigns, and we win with a beautiful display of the Beauty and the Beast. Let's go with game number 2. We go first this time. Have Develop Your Brain, Flounder, Smash, Hook, Gramma Tala, Tinkerbell, and Hans. A pretty decent lineup. We play Hook on 1, Tala on 2. We have Smash on 3. I would be interested in finding a Mickey Mouse. Develop Your Brain is still good in the late game. Have Hans on 4. Otherwise, the hand's pretty perfect. So I think I'm going to send back Develop Your Brain. Hope to get closer to Mickey. I hit Grab Your Sword. We're going to ink our Flounder, which is its main purpose in life. When we have a Captain Hook to play, we'll play the Captain Hook and pass the turn. Our opponent's turn is now. Let's give Flounder a little bit of screen time. Just a vanilla 2/2 quests for 1. While our opponent is making their decision. We got a beautiful display of Belle last game. Just questing for 5 and applying terrible pressure on our opponent. Opponent inks the Tinkerbell. Seems like another aggressive deck, seeing a Stitch and a green Tinkerbell hit the ink pool. We don't really need a second Captain Hook. 1 is plenty, as we'll run out, Gramma Tala, and pass the turn back. Don't really want to quest with Captain Hook here. The 2 for 1 with the Stitch is a little over the top. I can keep Captain Hook for pressure to take out a Simba, for example. Opponent inks Cruella and plays said Simba. And that's why you don't quest with the Captain Hook. I do want to take out Simba. I'm not sure if I want to sacrifice the Gramma Tala to the Stitch, or even run out my Smash here. I think I want to just ink the Smash. Yeah, I mean, we do have a Grab Your Swords here, which is quite interesting. I think I'm gonna quest with Gramma Tala, because I don't mind. Actually, I'd be quite interested in getting the extra ink here. If our opponent just deploys a flurry of 1-drops and inks, then Grab Your Sword is going to be the answer that I'm looking for. Otherwise, we'll just deploy normally, play Hans on turn 4. Ooh, opponent plays just in time. Brings in a Mad Hatter, a 2/4. Whenever it's challenged, you may draw a card. Alright. Well, that is a bit problematic. Our best answer for it is Tinkerbell. We definitely don't want to just run into it. Let It Go is also a fine answer, but I need to play something this turn. So I'm going to ink Jasmine, play Hans, and quest with Gramma Tala. Just applying a bit of pressure, trying to get her into the ink pool, while still getting value out of her. Opponent inks a Stitch, small Stitch. Now's a scary turn where your opponent can play the big Stitch. Opponent decides to take us on our offer, take out Gramma Tala, bringing us to 5 ink. 3 cards each. Oh, it was a Rapunzel play. Okay. Opponent plays Rapunzel to draw a card out of the exchange. Now with Hans, we do have the interesting ability to just ping the Mad Hatter, which is quite tempting. And then we can run out Tinkerbell. I think we're going to do that. So we're going to ink or smash. We're going to run out Tinkerbell. The extremely powerful ping everything for 1. And then we are going to deal an extra point of damage to the Mad Hatter. Passing the turn. Hopefully our opponent doesn't have a second Rapunzel. Because then if we can take out anything with our Tinkerbell, we can use her ability to damage the Mad Hatter, taking it out without actually having to attack it. Okay, opponent plays Maximus. The bodyguard with support. Not overly problematic. We can wipe the slate clean with Grab Your Sword. So that takes out Mad Hatter, takes out Stitch. Rapunzel goes to 2, and we can take out Maximus and ping Rapunzel with Hans. It feels like an opportune time to play it. I don't really want to sing it, I just want to cast it. And it's the big nuke, one-sided. Tinkerbell does her magic. Just damage, damage, damage. And we'll quest for 2 with Hans, for good measure. Pass the turn back. Opponent now has only 3 cards in hand. 11 to 6 is the lore count. And now that's a Moana. It's a heavy quester. We could let it go, but I don't think we want to. I think we just quest here. Let her do her thing. We'll deal a point of damage. We'll quest with Tinkerbell. If our opponent wants to trade, then their opponent's going to have to do it themselves with combat. Opponent probably wants to ink with Moana, but we're under no real pressure. Opponent inks a Hans, which could be problematic. With 4 is a second Rapunzel. Heal 1, draw a card into a Simba. So opponent does have board presence now. Thankfully we have a second copy of Grab Your Sword and Pitchfork. And whatever else deals a ton of damage to all our opponent's characters. The opponent needs to take out Tinkerbell here, or they're going to be in big trouble. That is the wise play. All our opponents should have done that before playing the Rapunzel. Ooh, and Jasmine would have been backbreaking. But for now, we will settle for a Grab Your Sword, ping the Simba with Han's ability, take out Rapunzel. Seems like a good play. Such a powerful card. Especially when you have small abilities that allows you to ping pang here and there. Hans is really doing some work here. Oh yeah, we can't actually attack Rapunzel. So we're going to quest instead. Grab Your Sword, definitely MVP of this game. Opponent's at 13, we're at 14. Tempo swinging in our favor. At this point, I think we might as well ink Jasmine. Run out Hades. Take out Lilo. Take out Rapunzel. And just quest for 2. Making sure opponent has no trick. And in in Emerald Amber, I don't think our opponent has any board wipe, and our opponent concedes. The control is too powerful with the Beauty and the Beast. Let's go for game number 3, because this deck's just so much fun to play. Ooh, we have way too many Tinkerbells. We don't want to grab your sword. Attack us for later. I don't really want to develop your brain. I really want one of those one-drop characters. Let's just send everything back. I just don't feel that hand. Alright, so we get a Prince Eric, a Flounder, a pair of Hades, and a whole new world. And this is why I should have kept some inkable cards. But we're still gonna play it and see what happens. We would have to skip a turn here and there. And ink the stuff we want to play. Well, we can ink Beast and Jasmine at the very least. Opponent inks a Gaston. Ooh, another non-inkable. We're gonna ink Jasmine first. I'm gonna pass on the Flounder. I really need inkable cards. And our opponent hasn't shown any sign of pressure so far. So I'm gonna ink the Flounder and just land Prince Eric on turn 2. Sorry, Flounder. We're only one drop and we're still not playing you. But we'll play Prince Eric and pass the turn back. If our opponent had played a one drop, I would have played the Flounder. But now it's just a staring contest between Gaston, who can't quest, and Prince Eric, who doesn't want to. Their opponent is reckless and must challenge every turn if they can. Opponent's playing Ruby Amethyst. Some control list. Don't think that deck plays any items or none that I care about. So Beast is going to go into the ink pool, and unfortunately that's everything we have for this turn. On the bright side, Grab Your Sword is looking fantastic right now. Opponent inks a Facilier. Our opponent's going to be playing some board wipes as well. Opponent quests with Maleficent. And hard casts friends on the other side. Alright. We don't really need our smash, so we're going to ink that. And play Hans. Finally have something to play. And on that note, we might as well pass a turn. Opponent's hand is pretty full, but if we can land a whole new world and catch them with their ink down, then I'd say we'll be in a pretty good situation. So we now have Hans, the Pinger of Darkness. What's his actual label? 13th in line. It's better not making the line. Ooh, Gramma Tala. I like that. But unfortunately, you're going to the ink pool because you're the only thing I can ink in order to land my Jasmine. I don't really need healing. I'll just pass a turn back. So the plan is to sing Grab Your Sword and then hardcast a whole new world. Oh, an opponent is playing Aladdin and Aladdin. Oh, the blowout. Oh, I feel bad for our opponent. Feel great for the viewers, but bad for the opponent. We are going to sing Grab Your Sword. Jasmine, thank you for calling forth your army to wipe out our opponent. And our opponent only has 4 cards in hand, but I think we still need to play it. Let's just reset our hands. Because I want something to ink here. And I'm going to ink a hook. Actually, I'm going to ink a Prince Eric. And then I get some questing. And I don't really want to stage a little accident here, Mr. Hans. Grab Your Sword, definitely doing a lot of work in this deck. In this game more specifically. But I'm sure opponent has a Be Prepared waiting to be cast. Okay, some items. I kind of wish I didn't throw away the beast now. A pocket watch and a pair of magic mirrors. So the opponent is playing the very late game. And trying to bait us into a board wipe here. So I'm going to play the pressure that's not really pressure with Gramma Tala. Going to ink a hook. I'm going to develop your brain. Yeah, Hans is fine. So it's Hans or develop your brain again. I think Hans is fine. Do I want to commit more to the board? I don't think I need to. I have Hades on the backswing. So I'm questing for 5. 6 with Gramma Tala, which is plenty. So I'm just going to pass, let my opponent cast the Be Prepared, and then drop Belle and Hans into the board again, if that happens. Oh, just a hard-casted Aladdin. With the White Rabbit's Pocket Watch, yep, that's a good play. I'll be able to get some ink back. Taking out the Queen of Agrabah. Stealing 2 of our lore. A bit problematic, but that ability only activates during our opponent's turn. So we'll be able to trade Prince Eric. And then, do we want to play the Big Beater? No, I think we want to play Belle. Little fancy. Ink Hans. Play a second Belle. Quest, and threaten lethal with the bells next turn. Because now with the double Belle on the battlefield, we can put 2 cards into our ink pool and quest for 10. And then if either Gramma Tala or Hans remains on battlefield, we will simply win the game. Opponent inks a queen, going up to 9 ink. That's a lot of ink. But the only thing I'm really afraid of here is Be Prepared, which our opponent could very well be playing, in which case we're going to be running Tekka and going back into an aggro type, well, aggro, just playing big beaters. Pressure with Tekka and Hades. Opponent plays Mickey Mouse, Brave Little Tailor, which unfortunately is not enough. As we ink a Belle, ink a Jasmine, and quest for 11, using Belle's ability to just end the game on the spot. And that's 3 and 3 for Beauty and the Beast control deck. I hope that you've enjoyed this video. I hope that you've enjoyed the deck list, and we'll try it out at your nearest game store or on Pixelborn for some games while practicing for the real card game to come out. Let me know if you've liked that Pixelborn gameplay, if you've enjoyed the deck building done through Lorcana Deck Builder, what I can do better to improve the experience of you watching this video, or let me know if you think that it was just as awesome as it and that you want to see more. I appreciate your feedback, and I hope that you've had a lot of fun and maybe learned a thing or two from this video. I certainly had a lot of fun playing those games and showing that really fun deck list to you folks. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time.